Thousands of years ago, Neolithic North Americans shared their world with true giants, towering predators, bizarre beasts which would appear as some sort of hybrid to us now, and other creatures so fearsome that they would stalk the dreams of the first hunters for generations. Before history was written, survival meant facing monsters the size of houses, with the strength of armies, and the hunger of a world in transition. Saber-toothed cats lurked in the forest. Short-faced bears ruled the plains. And far worse, there were beasts that left permanent scars on the psyche of humanity. These weren't just animals. They were myths in the making, the creatures of extinction.
And please, y'all, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe.
Imagine a landscape of vast, rolling plains and dense woodlands teeming with life. The saber-toothed cat, or Smilodon, prowled these ancient terrains with a grace and power that commanded respect from all creatures. Weighing up to 880 pounds and standing at about 4 foot tall at the shoulder, Smilodon was a formidable predator. Its most distinguishing features were its long, curved canine teeth, which could measure up to 7 inches, giving it the moniker Saber-tooth. Smilodon had a robust build with powerful forelimbs and a muscular neck, perfectly adapted for ambushing large prey. Unlike modern big cats, Smilodon wasn't built for long chases. Instead, it relied on stealth, using cover to get as close as possible before finally launching a surprise attack. Its primary diet is thought to have consisted of large herbivores like mammoths and bison, while it undoubtedly supplemented these with smaller, weaker prey, like humans. With its strong jaws and large canines, a Smilodon could deliver a killing bite to the throat or neck, severing vital blood vessels and crushing windpipes, and even severing the spinal cord. In the Pleistocene era, North America was a dynamic ecosystem. Large herbivores roamed the land, shaping the vegetation and providing a food source for apex predators like Smilodon. The balance between predator and prey was delicate but essential for the overall health of the ecosystem. Smilodon played a crucial role in maintaining this balance by culling the weak and sick animals, ensuring the survival of the fittest. The first Native Americans shared this land with Smilodon, developing a deep understanding of their environment and the creatures within it. Early human tribes were hunter-gatherers, relying on their knowledge of animal behavior, seasonal patterns, and of landscapes to survive. They observed the habits of predators like Smilodon and learned how to navigate their territories with caution. The relationship between Native Americans and Smilodon was complex and multifaceted. While humans were not the primary prey of Smilodon, encounters were inevitable, especially during hunting expeditions. Smilodon's ambush tactics made it a formidable adversary, and humans had to be constantly vigilant. They developed strategies to protect themselves from these predators, using their superior intelligence and ingenuity to their advantage. One of the most common and earliest tactics was the use of fire. Native Americans recognized that fire could deter large predators. They would create controlled burns around their camps, using the flames as a barrier or sort of wall that Smilodon and other monsters were reluctant to cross. Additionally, the fire provided a source of light at night, reducing the chances of a surprise attack should any human need to step outside the confines of their bed. Another strategy was the use of traps and barriers. Native Americans constructed intricate traps using natural materials like branches, vines, and rocks. These traps were designed often to immobilize or slow down predators, giving humans the opportunity to either escape or defend themselves. They also built barriers around their camps using sharpened stakes and thorny brushes, creating a physical barrier that simply made it too difficult for the predators to breach. These Neolithic Americans also relied on their social structures for protection. Living in groups provided safety in numbers, and each member of the tribe had a role to play in ensuring the group's total survival. Scouts would keep watch for predators, alerting the group to any potential dangers. Skilled hunters and warriors were responsible for defending the tribe, using spears, arrows, and other weapons to fend off attacks. As the Pleistocene era drew to a close, the changing climate and landscape brought about the extinction of many large animals, including Smilodon. And while it's argued whether human activity, combined with environmental shifts, or even a comet impact, led to the decline of these majestic predators, while Smilodon no longer prowls the plains, its legacy lives on in the stories and legends passed down through generations. Native American folklore often includes tales of a fierce saber-toothed cat, a testament to the impact these creatures had on the life and the psyche of the people living in the world around them. The world that the first Native Americans came to was one of survival of the fittest, a battle between monstrous creatures. And among these incredible creatures roamed the formidable short-faced bear, or Arctodus simus, a predator that struck fear into the hearts of many. This bear was no ordinary one. It was a giant, standing up to 12 feet tall on its hind legs, and weighing as much as 2,000 pounds. With its long legs and powerful build, the short-faced bear was built for speed and strength, making it one of the most fearsome predators of the Pleistocene epoch. The short-faced bear had a unique appearance, with a broad and short snout and forward-facing eyes that gave it excellent binocular vision. Its limbs were long and slender, allowing it to cover great distances in its search for food. Unlike modern bears, which have a pigeon-toed gait, the short-faced bear's feet pointed straight forwards, enabling it to move with a fast and purposeful stride. This bear was not just a scavenger, it was a true carnivore, preying on large herbivores such as bison, muskox, and even young mammoths. In the Pleistocene ecosystem, the short-faced bear played a crucial role as an apex predator. Its presence helped maintain the balance of the ecosystem by controlling the populations of large herbivores. The bear's keen sense of smell and powerful jaws allowed it to track and take down prey with ease. However, the short-faced bear was also an opportunistic feeder, scavenging on carcasses whenever the chance arose, and this adaptability made it a dominant force in its environment, and made it a constant threat of danger to early Native Americans. The first Paleo-Americans were bands of hunter-gatherers, armed with stone-tipped spears and a deep knowledge of survival. These early humans were no strangers to danger. They had already faced saber-toothed cats and mammoths, but Arctodus was different. Its sheer size and speed made it a nightmare to confront. While direct evidence of a bear in human combat is scarce, the circumstantial clues are chilling. In caves across North America, remains of Arctodus have been found in the same layers, right alongside early human artifacts. Two of the most famous and perhaps most controversial findings within cave systems of Arctodus occurred in Daisy Cave in San Miguel Island, and then again later in what would become called Big Bear Cave in the central Ozarks of Missouri. Now in Daisy Cave, they found a severed Arctodus finger and claw inside of a layer that contained loads of human artifacts, and we know that that cave was inhabited by people at the time. So the big question becomes, did they hunt down the Arctodus, or did it come hunting them and maybe lose a limb? When it comes to human-Arcturus interactions, the question of whether or not humans actually hunted them is really one of the few that remain, because we know encounters were inevitable, and at that time, the bear certainly hunted humans, because we were nothing more than another part of the food chain. We didn't have that instinctual fear that every animal nowadays has of people, because we're the animal that points and you die. No, instead, they had sticks and stones that they would wage war against dinosaur-sized monsters with claws and teeth. Coming face to face with a short-faced bear would have been something beyond terrifying. It would be looking at essentially your utter destruction. It would be looking at what is bringing your doom incarnate. I look back in my own life, I've had dozens of encounters with wild bears, ranging from small black bears up to real-life grizzlies. I've seen them stand in person at 7-8 foot tall, and it is something that every cell in your body tells you should get away from, because you know instinctively that that creature, without you being armed, can destroy you in a heartbeat without a second thought. And so when we think of these ancestors coming against something that stands 12 foot tall, whose mouth opens 1.5 feet wide with 3-inch long teeth, it would be like fighting a hairy dinosaur. It'd be like fighting a monster that has no comparison today. It'd be utterly indescribable. And I wonder how many of these native stories, the heroes of old who have fought giant bears, how many of those are hand-me-down stories from this time? Maybe lucky people who got a strike and happened to end the life of a short-faced bear, and thus became a true legend amongst their people. In the shadowed margins of human civilization, the wolf has long prowled not only forest, but our collective psyche, an ever-present specter of cunning, hunger, and primal violence. Throughout history, wolves have been both feared and revered, and there are eras where their fear reigned supreme. In ancient and medieval Europe, dense woods teemed with predators, and none loomed larger in the public imagination than the wolf. Starvation, harsh winters, and widespread warfare created perfect storms throughout the history of humanity for desperate packs to approach human settlements. Chronicles from the 15th through the 16th centuries of France and Eastern Europe, and even in Asia, record grisly tales of wolves dragging off children, attacking lone travelers, and in some rare cases, even scavenging war-torn battlefields that were littered with corpses. Some accounts speak of wolves breaching even the boundaries of cities, as famine eroded the natural order and blurred the line between wilderness and civilizations. The ancient conflict between human and wolves reached a hauntingly surreal crescendo during World War I, when in the brutal winters of Eastern Europe, in the forests of Lithuania, Poland, and Belarus, starving wolves driven by artillery fire and decimated prey populations began attacking wounded soldiers and isolated units in vast numbers. In a rare moment of mutual understanding, Russian and German forces enacted what it became to be known as the wolf truces, a temporary ceasefire in order to hunt the beast together, guns turning from man to nature's most opportunistic predator. But in Paleolithic America, the threat of wolves was something else entirely. It wasn't merely something to be feared, a potential threat on the edge of a village. It was an immediate destruction of your entire people. A pack of juggernauts built for raw power, weighing in at up to 175 pounds, dwarfing modern wolves. They boasted a bite force that could crush bone with a chilling ease. Compared with modern wolves, its jaws were broader. Its teeth were more like wicked scimitars of destruction, perfect for ripping through the tough hides of Pleistocene megafauna, bison, camels, and even young mammoths. Scavenger or hunter, the dire wolf never let a meal slip away. Unlike the sleek, agile wolves that we know today, dire wolves were stalkers, not sprinters chasing down their prey. Their robust bodies lacked the speed for extended chases, but once they cornered their prey, escape was no longer an option. These wolves hunted in large packs, launching relentless attacks that overwhelmed even the most massive megafauna that roamed the Americas. As the Neolithic peoples spread across North America, following game trails and settling near fertile river valleys, their existence became intertwined with that of the direwolf, a neighbor, an enemy, and a competitor for food. Imagine the fire-lit nights of a human encampment, the scent of roasting bison wafting into the air, the flicker of torches casting long shadows, and beyond the safety of the flames, yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness, watching and waiting. For the early humans in North America, direwolves were both fearsome adversaries and unintentional allies. When humans made fresh kills, they had to guard their prize, for packs of direwolves would be drawn to the scent of blood, and often lurked nearby ready to scavenge scraps, or even steal the carcass altogether. Yet it's also believed that there were moments when the direwolf's hunger for the hunt often benefited these first people. As the packs took down massive prey, humans could pick over the remains, gathering bones and sinew for tools, leather for clothing, and even meat to sustain their own survival. In a strange, silent agreement, the wolves and humans shared the spoils of the land, predator and opportunist in an uneasy balance. A lone hunter venturing too far from camp, an injured traveler lagging behind the group. These were easy targets for a pack of starving wolves, and one by one, shadows would close in around you until the only sound was the snapping of jaws and the mournful howl of the hunt's victory. The American lion, Panthera atrox, one of the largest cats to ever exist, and it roamed the open plains of North America, where rivers carved through the ancient landscape and bison stampeded across the plains. This formidable predator stalked the shadows. Panthera atrox was a beast, larger than any living big cat today, and it prowled with a lethal grace. It reigned supreme over the wilds, with the silent patience knowing that it was the apex predator. Towering over its modern relatives, the American lion stretched nearly 12 feet in length, and it stood at the shoulder as tall as a man. It outweighed today's African lions, sometimes exceeding 900 pounds, a hulking carnivore forged for pure power and precision. Its muscular frame rippled beneath its sleek, golden coat, perfectly camouflaged amid the tall grasses and rocky outcrops. It was armed with razor-edged claws and crushing jaws. It could snap a bison's spine in a heartbeat, dragging its kill into the cover before lesser predators dared approach. Unlike modern lions, it hunted alone, a solitary phantom lurking in the half-light before striking with a bone-shattering force. The American lion thrived on ambush tactics. Unlike wolves that relied on pack coordination, or saber-toothed cats that wrestled prey to the ground, Panthera atrox was a ghost of the terrain, silent, patient, and lethal. Its primary targets were bison, the camels of the Americas, and even the ancient large horses. But no creature, human or beast, was truly safe. When its hunt began, the lion would stalk the edges of game trails, crouching low, muscles coiled. Its huge paws muffled the sound of its movement, allowing it to slip within striking distance before unleashing a lightning-fast rush. One devastating swipe could shatter ribs and send its prey collapsing in agony, followed by a suffocating bite to the throat. And while modern lions rely on prolonged strangulation, the American lion preferred to kill its prey in swifter fashion, using its superior bite force to crush both windpipes and skulls alike. For the Neolithic peoples of America, who carved their lives from the land, The American lion wasn't just another predator. It was a nightmare made flesh. Early hunters lived in constant awareness of its presence, tracking its movements, recognizing fresh kills, and avoiding hunting grounds littered with lion evidence were essential survival strategies amongst these early peoples. But sometimes, there was no escape. At dusk, families gathered around the flickering fires, with their spears stacked neatly within reach. In the distance, a howl or growl stirred the night, setting nerves on edge. American lions were thought to not be afraid of humans, and they did not hesitate to test the boundaries of firelight if hunger pressed hard enough. The humans were no mere victims. They were ingenious survivors, learning to drive off the great predators with cunning and tactics. One of those that they relied on was the setup of camps in natural fortresses, such as cliffs or enclosed areas where predators could not easily approach. The crackling flames, banging of drums, and sudden bursts of movement could unsettle even the most fearsome beasts. The American lions were bold, but they were not reckless. If a hunt deemed more trouble than it was worth, they would often withdraw. But even the great American lion could not outlast the shifting tides of fate. As the Ice Age waned, prey dwindled, and the once thriving predator faced starvation. The Neolithic people, growing in numbers, claimed more of the land, leaving fewer safe havens for the lions. And by 10,000 years ago, Panthera atrox disappeared from the earth, its bones buried beneath the dust of time. In the dense and primeval forest and vast floodplains of Pleistocene America, a specter of muscle and shadow lurked, the giant jaguar, Panthera onca augusta. Towering over its modern counterpart, this apex predator reached nearly 400 pounds, with a frame more akin to that of a lion than the sleek jaguars of today. Its limbs were stockier, its jaw a weapon designed not to crush, but to incapacitate with a single and ferocious bite. With forests thick and rivers teeming with prey, Panthera onca augusta ruled as an ambush predator, blending seamlessly into the tangle of undergrowth. It hunted giant ground sloths, prehistoric horses, and even juvenile mammoths where terrain allowed. But humans, the new interlopers of its realm, soon became both rival and a new target. Early hunter-gatherers, moving cautiously through the forest and along waterways, would have quickly learned to fear this beast. Unlike lions or even saber-toothed cats, which relied upon open terrain for a great pursuit, the giant jaguar was a master of patience. It studied movement patterns, anticipated routes, and struck in total silence. A lone human wandering too far from the safety of firelight might never even hear it coming. Their last sight would be golden eyes gleaming from the gloom, a blur of rosetted fur before the world went dark. And yet these early humans were not just helpless prey. They adapted across the swamps of Florida and the caves of Mexico, and evidence suggests that early peoples developed defensive tactics specifically to counter these large cats. Fire, of course, was the first weapon of choice. Settlements were arranged in a way that flames burned at multiple points, reducing the jaguar's ability to stalk unseen. And in some regions, barriers of thorn brush were found encircling resting places, making surprise attacks nearly impossible. Then there were the warriors, the few brave enough to challenge the jaguar directly. Indigenous legends speak of men who bore its name, donning pelts and wielding obsidian blades honed to sever muscle in a single cut. These hunters learned that a giant jaguar feared only one thing, a foe that did not run. In some cases, groups worked together to corner the stalking cats, using coordinated spear thrust and noise to drive it back into the undergrowth. Over the millennia, as humans developed villages and more permanent settlements, Panthera onca augusta began to retreat. Climate shifts and human expansion pushed its range further south, and eventually, the giant among jaguars faded from history. Its legacy, still woven into the mythology of warrior kings and spirit animals. But traces remain. The fear of the jaguar never fully left human memory. In whispered tales from the Amazon and carved petroglyphs in ancient ruins, its spirit endures. A predator of patience, an embodiment of silent death, and a lesson to all: the wild never truly forgets. Neolithic peoples who hunted the dense forest and sprawling savannas of ancient South America came across and encountered a true titan which lumbered through the undergrowth. Megatherium, the giant ground sloth, towering at nearly 20 feet when standing upright and weighing as much as 4 tons, it was a beast unlike any other. Despite its imposing size, Megatherium was no predator. Instead, it was a slow-moving herbivore that relied on brute strength and its towering reach to secure its meals. Unlike modern tree-dwelling sloths, this ancient colossus lived primarily on the ground, using its massive curved claws to pull down branches heavy with leaves. It feasted on tough vegetation, roots, shrubs, and possibly even fruits, ripping apart bark and tearing into fibrous plants that few other creatures could process. Some scientists suggest that it may have occasionally stood on its hind legs, balancing on its thick tail to reach the highest branches, creating a striking image of raw, prehistoric might. The world it inhabited was teeming with danger. Saber-toothed cats like Smilodon, packs of terror birds, and powerful jaguars stalked the same plains. But Megatherium was largely unbothered. Its sheer size meant few animals dared attack it, and its slashing claws could deter even the most determined predator. Despite its slow movement, when threatened, it was capable of short bursts of aggression, which showed devastating destruction on its attackers. It was capable of wounding or even killing attackers with a single swipe. But then came a new presence: humans. Early inhabitants of South America, likely migrating ancestors of indigenous peoples, must have marveled at the sight of this giant. But admiration soon turned to conflict. Evidence suggests that Megatherium was actively hunted, likely for its massive quantities of meat and thick hide which could provide shelter and an armor-like protection. Archaeological findings show that humans may have learned to anticipate its movements, using fire to manipulate its grazing habits and drive it into areas where it could be more easily ambushed. But the hunt for a Megatherium was not so simple. A wounded ground sloth was one of the deadliest creatures of the Neolithic. Stories passed through generations among native tribes that describe encounters with a great beast which could overturn trees and tear apart attackers with his claws. Some accounts even suggest that desperate warriors took advantage of its slow reflexes, trying to strike at the softer underbelly from below, where its thick fur and hide offered less protection. In the sweeping prairies and rugged canyons of Ice Age North America, a shadow raced faster than the wind, a predator built for pure speed and silent death. Myracinonex, the American cheetah, ruled as one of the continent's most elusive killers. Though resembling the modern cheetah in form, it was larger, more muscular, and likely capable of short bursts of astonishing velocity over uneven terrain. Unlike its African cousins, it wasn't confined to the open plains. It thrived in a land of towering rock formations, dense grasslands, and prehistoric megafauna. The American cheetah hunted creatures built for flight. Fleet-footed pronghorns, young bison, and prehistoric horses. Its adapted frame allowed it to chase prey through rocky outcrops, using precision and agility rather than sheer endurance. Some scientists believe its evolution directly influenced the incredible speed of the pronghorn antelope today, an animal that still runs far faster than any modern predator needs to escape, as if its ghostly enemy might return at any moment. But humans, too, entered this domain. As Paleo-Indians migrated across the continent, following the rhythms of game and seasons, they came to understand the patterns of miracinonyx, or rather, they learned to fear them. Unlike saber-toothed cats, which relied on ambush tactics, the American cheetah was a stalker. It followed quietly, studying weaknesses and waiting for the exact moment to strike. A lone traveler moving between hunting grounds might sense nothing but the whisper of wind through the grass, until golden eyes locked onto them from a ridge above. Evidence suggests that early humans found ways to counter its speed. They built fire barriers at night, keeping their sediments well lit to disrupt its hunting patterns. They likely took shelter among cliffs where no cheetah could launch a proper chase. But the most daring of hunters, a select few who carried obsidian-tipped spears, may have chosen to turn pursuit into battle. Legend echoes of this possibility. Among certain native folklore, there are widespread tales of great shadow cats, a creature neither lion nor cougar, that moved like smoke and struck from the dusk. Some say hunters bore its name in warning, that to be marked by the cheetah meant living by speed alone, always running and never resting. Neolithic North America was a wonderland of monsters, a place where beasts roamed with impunity, where prey could rip a man in half with a single blow, and where predators were too big to fight, were too fast to flee, and were too bloodthirsty to ever forget.